In this chapter, we're going to learn about the following 10 keywords: grimy, seethe, entreat, browse, feud, gigantic, alight, adequate, bellow, and barren. Now let's start with the first keyword, grimy. Now you look at this image and all you can see is a lot of bad looking graffiti and a lot of dirt. It's so dirty in here. So do you think that relates to the word grimy? Let's find out. Now grimy is an adjective. Something that is grimy is very dirty. For example, we say a grimy industrial city. And synonyms for grimy are the words dirty, polluted, filthy, or soiled. So the next time you remember this image and remember how dirty it looks, remember the word grimy and what it means. And now for the next keyword, seethe. Now you look at this picture and you can see that there is kind of sadness and anger in this boy's eyes. It could be that he was oppressed or he was not treated well by many people, and that led him to this anger and sadness in his eyes. But how does that relate to the word seethe? Let's find out. Now, seethe is a verb. When you are seething, you are very angry about something but do not express your feelings about it. For example, she took it calmly at first, but under the surface was seething. Or he is seething at all the bad press he's getting. And seethe can also be used in a different context. If you say that a place is seething with people or things, you are emphasizing that it is very full of them and that they are all moving about. For example, the forest below him seethed and teemed with life. And synonyms for seethe in this context are the words teem, be full of, abound, or swarm. So the next time you remember the picture of this boy, remember the word seethe and what it means. And now for the next keyword, entreat. If you look at the picture, you can see that the old gentleman is asking these two people to sign somewhere or to read something, and it seems that he's asking them politely. So do you think that is related to the word entreat? Let's find out. Now, entreat is a verb. If you entreat someone to do something, you ask them very politely and seriously to do it. For example, Trevor entreated them to delay their departure. He asked them politely, but very seriously. And synonyms for entreat are the words beg, ask, appeal to, and petition. So the next time you remember this picture, remember the word entreat and what it means. And now for the next keyword, browse. Now if you look at the picture, you can see that this girl is surfing the internet, or maybe just looking at different files on her computer. So how does that relate to the word browse? Let's find out. Now, browse is a verb. If you browse a shop, you look at things in a fairly casual way in the hope that you might find something you like. For example, I stopped in several bookstores to browse. A browse can also be used as a noun. For example, we say a browse around the shops. A browse can also be used in a different context. If you browse through a book or magazine, you look through it in a fairly casual way. For example, there are plenty of biographies for him to browse over. And synonyms for browse in this context are the words skim, scan, glance at, and survey. And browse can also be used in a different context that has to do with computing. If you browse on a computer, you search for information in computer files or on the internet. For example, try browsing around in the network bulletin boards. And there's more to browse. When animals browse, they feed on plants. For example, the 3 red deer stags browsing 50 yards from my lodge on the fringes of the forest. And synonyms for browse in this context are the words graze, eat, feed, or crop. So the next time you remember the picture of this girl looking at her computer monitor, remember the word browse and what it means. And now for the next keyword, feud. Now you look at this couple and you can see that there is a problem. You can see that they're not getting on well at the moment. So could that be related to the word feud? Let's find out. Now, a feud is a countable noun. A feud is a quarrel in which two people or groups remain angry with each other for a long time although they are not always fighting or arguing. For example, a long and bitter feud between the state government and the villagers. And synonyms for feud in this context are the words hostility, row, conflict, and argument. Now, feud can also be used as a verb. If one person or group feuds with another, they have a quarrel that lasts a long time. You can also say that two people or groups feud. For example, their families had feuded since their teenage daughters quarreled 2 years ago. And synonyms for feud in this context are the words quarrel, row, clash, and dispute. So the next time you remember the picture of this couple, remember the word feud and what it means. And now for the next keyword, gigantic. Now, if you look at this piece of machinery, at this kind of monster truck, and if you notice that there is a man standing next to the truck, you can see how big the truck is. Maybe we can even call it gigantic. What is the meaning of gigantic? Is it related to this picture? Let's find out. A gigantic is an adjective. If you describe something as gigantic, you're emphasizing that it is extremely large in size, amount, or degree. For example, we say gigantic rocks, very large rocks. Or we can say a gigantic task of national reconstruction awaits us. And synonyms for gigantic are the words huge, great, large, or giant. So the next time you remember this picture of this monster truck, remember the word gigantic and what it means. And now for the next keyword, a light. Now, if you look at the picture, you can see some candles and they are all lit. So does that have to do with the word alight? Can we say the candles are alight? Let's find out. Now, alight is an adjective. If something is alight, it is burning. So it is true, we can say the candles are alight. For example, we can say several buildings were set alight. They were burning. Or the gas fire was still alight. And alight can also be used in a different context. If someone's eyes are alight or if their face is alight, the expression in their eyes or on their face shows that they are feeling a strong emotion such as excitement or happiness. For example, she paused and turned her face alight with happiness. So the next time you remember the picture of these beautiful candles, remember the word alight and what it means. And now for the next keyword, adequate. Now, if you look at the picture, we have the tick and we have the man showing that it is okay. Now, how does that relate to the word adequate? Does it mean that it is enough or it is the right amount or it is the right thing? Let's find out. Now, adequate is an adjective. If something is adequate, there is enough of it or it is good enough to be used or accepted. For example, 1 in 4 people worldwide are without adequate homes, are without homes that are good enough, or are without acceptable homes to live in. Another example, the old methods weren't adequate to meet current needs. And synonyms for adequate are the words passable, acceptable, middling, and average. And we can use adequately as an adverb. For example, many students are not adequately prepared for higher education. So the next time you remember this picture with the tick sign, remember the word adequate and what it means. And now for the next keyword, bellow. Now, if you look at this picture, you can see this man shouting out very loudly. But how does that relate to the word bellow? Let's find out. Now, bellow is a verb. If someone bellows, they shout angrily in a loud, deep voice. For example, he bellowed information into the mouthpiece of the phone. And synonyms for bellow are the words shout, call, cry or cry out, and scream. And bellow can also be used as a noun. For example, I was distraught and let out a bellow of tearful rage. So the next time you remember the picture of this man shouting out loud, remember the word bellow and what it means. And now for the last key word for this chapter, barren. Now, if you look at this picture, you can see that there is this landscape that has nothing growing in it. There are no plants whatsoever. Do you think that has to do with the word barren? Let's find out. Barren is an adjective. A barren landscape is dry and bare and has very few plants and no trees, just like the picture we saw. For example, the country's landscape of high barren mountains. And synonyms for barren are the words desolate, empty, desert, and bare. And we can use barren in a different context. Now, barren land consists of soil that is so poor that plants cannot grow in it. For example, he also wants to use the water to irrigate barren desert land. And synonyms for barren in this context are the words unproductive, dry, useless, or sterile. Now, barren can also be used in a different context. If you describe something such as an activity or a period of your life as barren, you mean that you achieve no success during it or that it has no useful results. For example, politics that are banal and barren of purpose. And we can use barrenness in this context as an uncountable noun. For example, a film that would force audiences to confront the barrenness of contemporary life. And finally, if you describe a room or a place as barren, you do not like it because it has almost no furniture or other objects in it. For example, the room was austere, nearly barren of furniture or decoration. And synonyms for barren in this context are the words empty, clear, vacant, and void. So the next time you remember this picture of this place with no trees or plants, remember the word barren and what it means. And that is all for this chapter.